I think it's been a really inspiring morning. I hope that everyone has had that same experience that I have had. I clearly come from a health perspective, but hearing today the different perspectives, particularly from the design, architect, planning, transport areas, has really sort of helped me to look at this in quite a different way. So I've got the very unenviable position of, or task of, doing some kind of a summary for this. And it seems to me that there's been quite a few conversations around particular themes. So we heard about disruptive innovation. We've talked about community activation and the idea of placemaking. And what I really liked about that sort of concept of tactical urbanism, which I think also flowed through into this panel discussion as well, is the idea of you plan, and that planning can take a really long time, but there's things that you can do in that transformation space. So things that you can try, which are very local and very real, and that can actually happen very quickly. And so we've heard a number of those sorts of examples. We've learnt about the idea of like the autonomous car, for example, and is this a utopia or a dystopia? But then also been reminded that we need to be thinking about what it is that we want to achieve, and then what tools do we use to get to that vision, rather than planning or to make way for some of those technologies. Things that are inspiring for me are the comments like we're at a once-in-a-century opportunity in relation to transport planning. I mean, that's a very exciting place, and it also creates that sense of urgency that there are things that need to happen now, otherwise we're locked in for another 50 years or so. I love the concept of the red tape and cutting through 100 red ribbons to symbolise all of the hoops and barriers that need to be got through on a very particular project. But again, it's that sort of sense of the rules. There are so many rules that are actually holding back this sort of broader vision. So for me, it's that sense of that there are opportunities to transform space, but it's also that really important necessity of cultural change, and a cultural change away from the car, and a cultural change around that sort of sense of place. So I think that the last question was a good one to answer, to end with, because it's about how do we bring the interests of communities, professionals from health, and also infrastructure and local government and private industry together to look at what we are wanting to create in terms of communities. And I agree, it's not just around physical activity, it's around livable communities. And it seems to me that through those processes there are a whole range of co-benefits, and physical activity is one of those, but it's about creating spaces that are a place that people can thrive and live and live productive lives and happy lives, as well, as utopian as that sounds as well. So I think I'll leave it there, and just like to thank the Heart Foundation for putting on a really terrific session today, and thanks to everybody for your participation.